Okay. Hi guys. So it is 7:10. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. My name is Mosumola Olabelu and I am the community manager of Testers Quarters. Apart from that, I'm also a quality assurance engineer. So today we are going to be moving into something new and something wonderful for our monthly mentorship. And you're welcome to Testers Quarters monthly mentorship. So first, I'm going to be introducing you to what and who Testers Quarters is. Um, okay, so who are we? We are the most active software testing community in Africa, and we are focused on empowering, aspiring, and practicing product quality engineers with resources support mentorship that is required for people to succeed in their career. Now, this is our wonderful founder, which is Ibirunke Ekene. She's a distinguished leader in software testing and cybersecurity and also digital transformation. I mean, if you don't know Ibirunke Ekene, then you're definitely missing. Ibiroke Ekene is our CVO, our founder. And if you don't know, we are under Testify. And what is Testify? We are ABC, Academy, Business, and Community. If you don't know this, well, welcome to Testers Quarters. So we have other community in Testers Quarters. We have those are under us. We have Testers Quarters Ethiopia, Cameroon, Kampala, Uganda. We have Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, Ghana, Mothers in Tech, UK. We have Testify Academy Alumni Network. If you don't know this, that is those that finish from our academy and we really want to connect and be with them. We have women in software testing. And if you don't know, also we currently have Career Shaper Network, which is actually for universities. Our mission is to empower and elevate product quality engineers across Africa and globally by producing education, mentorship, industry collaboration, and career opportunities in software quality engineering. We aim to bridge the gaps between testers and product excellence, positioning PQEs as strategic partners in software development life cycle. Our vision, I mean, if you have been following us for a while, you will know our vision, which is to be the number one hub for product quality engineers in Africa, fostering a vibrant community where PQEs learn, collaborate, and drive software excellence while advancing the culture of quality assurance across African tech ecosystem. You can see here that our objective and goals are more than three, and we still have more apart from these that you're seeing on your screen. Um, our programs, we do have office hour, which happens every Wednesdays of the week. And if you have been, trust me, when I say if you have been missing this, you have been missing a lot. Either you're a newbie, you're intermediate, you're a senior, you're a manager, you should actually join this TQ office hour. And what do we do here? We actually answer your questions according to what you are what you are having problem with in your I guess someone is on mute. Okay. Okay, so as I was saying, according to what you have been facing in your company or your office, problem, tools, or anything. I mean, people share their screen for others to actually tell them and let them learn from them. Yeah. So you really don't want to miss office hour that always happens first every Wednesdays of the week. We also have the study buddy that is Friday 8 p.m. Well, currently it is our chapters that currently have this study buddy where Fridays they have um um, webinars to teach you guys. We have the AMA fireside chat, which is going to be happening today because and trust me when I say next month might be study body, and we don't focus on one, we focus on a lot of things. We have the local community that is called quarterly hangouts monthly. We have the Lagos Tech, we have the Abuja get together. There are a lot of things we do. We have mentorship. Apart from the fact that we bring monthly mentorship, we have a lot of seniors in our field that try as much as possible to contribute to what you are doing and teach you a lot in what you really want to learn. We have the annual we have the annual gathering, if you know NSTW, and also APKEC. You have to leave, um emoji. Just give me emoji if you know APKEC and NSTW. Give me emojis. Hi guys, give me emojis, give me emojis. I can't see any emoji. Where is everybody? What's going on? I can't see emojis. Okay. I guess I have to. Oh yeah, I'm seeing emoji. I'm seeing emoji. I'm seeing from Richard Courage. Thank you so much, Richard Courage. Thank you. If you don't know NSTW, they are our annual gathering and conferences. And we also have APKEC that is going to be happening in June, July. And trust me when I say you don't want to miss it. We have our IG, LinkedIn, X Lives, and all those things. We have our fun day, our comedy, and so on. As a tester, as a member in testers quarters, trust me when I say every Thursdays we are always bringing the fun part of testers quarters. We have the tester on where we tell everybody to test a particular application, and trust me when I say it's also on Thursdays most of the times. We have the test merchandise. Okay, we've spoken about this before, and yeah, so let us move into the business of today. Yeah, I'm so excited because it's not always about webinars. There are sometimes we just feel like I just feel like, oh, let's just move into fireside chat and let us see what we are going to be doing for this day. And trust me when I say this time around, we went mama both to search for our speaker. You are not gonna believe this. Our speaker for today is drum roll, Manasseh Aruba. So to learn about him, so we have with a career built at the intersection of fintech, e-commerce, and digital lending. Manasseh is a quality assurance engineer who knows exactly what it takes to launch reliable software in high stake industries. He specializes in orchestrating end-to-end testing strategies with a deep focus on automation by integrating performance testing into his workflow. It ensures that systems are not just bug free, but are truly resilient and ready for real world scale. He is particularly passionate about the future of the SDLC, showing a vast expertise in leveraging AI to make testing smarter and more intuitive. Whether is optimizing CI/CD pipeline using Bitbucket, Jenkins, and Azure DevOps, or embedding AI tools into every stage of the testing lifestyle. His goal is always the same: maximum efficiency with zero compromise on quality. So we are going to be introducing our speaker for today. Oh, I've introduced him actually. So we're going to be seeing his face, we're going to be hearing his voice. Hi Manesse. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi,
Oh,
good
good.
evening.
How
Ryan.
are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm great. It's so nice having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so you can just introduce yourself. Let me just
That's
give
me
you the
to
floor to
introduce.
introduce
I feel like
yourself.
you've done everything you're supposed to do and over. But you still want
What?
me to do things.
You can just, give us small tips like, okay, introduce yourself. Let us know you more. Apart from the fact that we are seeing you for the first time, we just want to, learn a little bit about you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Manasseh. A lot of people call me Mani for short. I'm a QA engineer, as she has said what all the things that she has said about me. Aside that, I think my journey started pre-COVID, right, as a QA engineer. And if I was to speak more on that, I think it has to come from a place where you have to be able to learn. So I started off in working at in a bank, and I think one of the things that did to help shaping how I see quality is you always have to be on the edge, right? You always, because most times you hear things and you see things that, I mean, the first thing that goes wrong anyway, first question you hear is who tested it, right? So when you hear such statement every single time, you know that whenever you're testing anything that has maybe implications or payments or what have you, right? You are always going to be careful. So I think that drove my sense of trying to test at a point of quality, aside just executing the test cases, right? And then I moved up to working in fintech, testing e-commerce and the like. So aside that, I play football for fun. I enjoy playing video games as well, and hanging out with friends. So I think that covers everything to top up what you just said.
Okay, thank you very much, Manasseh, for that. So I have a question though, because during the time that I was looking into your profile, I got to find out that you have over 6 years of experience. Yet you're saying you play football, you love playing football and all. How do you manage your time to be consistent at work and yet also be being there for your friends and also um do what you love?
Well, I think it just comes to how you manage your time, right? Because if you say you're always going to work, 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 you probably will not have time. So doing what you're supposed to do and getting it right the first time helps you to be able to obstruct or to be able to walk over any issues that maybe might require you to work over time or might require your attention somewhere else, that will limit your access to your personal life. Because if we're to be honest, work-life balance is actually very important. So can't segregate the fact that you are constantly working and trying to fix or work on issues or fixes, and then you don't have a personal life. Then I mean, what is the point of having to work 247 when you don't even have time for yourself? Eventually, you break down. And if per adventure something happens or it becomes fatal, trust me, in maybe a week's time, somebody will come back and do what you're doing. So it's just finding the balance and knowing how to optimize your tasks, right? So that you also have that time to spend with your family, with maybe your leisure time as well. So it's actually very important.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, just to know you more. You said you were a banker before you get into QA, or were you a banker while and also a QA? Because I'm trying to, you know, get that.
Yeah, so I started my QA in the bank, right? So initially I didn't start off as a banker. I started off as funny enough, I think I started off as a contact center executive, right? So I worked in the contact center department where I was working shifts basically. So we do I literally didn't have time then, right, compared to now because you work around the clock. So you don't have Sundays, you don't have Saturdays. You basically have 8 hour shifts that you do, right? And for somebody who didn't really study tech, I read political science in the university. So moving from that to from the banking sector, I think I just knew that I wasn't doing what I'm supposed to do, right? At that point, because it felt like it was a lot. Trust me, you pick calls for as much as, I mean, most times, sometimes when I speak to customer service, I know what they are going to because I've been there, right? And it's actually a lot more than you can think they do. So moving on, I think I was able to link up with my cousin who had like a someone who mentored me into QA, right? So then what I do mostly was I started learning on my own, right? But sometimes you need somebody to guide you. So during that phase of getting to learn on your own. What I did mostly my night shifts were YouTube videos. I had some API testing videos as well that I learned. But that's hands-on experience, right, is actually important because you might get locked up. So I think most times during my off days, if he's working from home, I just go there to work with him, try to learn one or two things, like I mean, prep for different things that will come, right? And we also had interview sessions. So that way I was able to still apply within the bank and then I transitioned basically. And that was how uh, the journey started.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. If you have not been listening, what I have gotten from just speaking to him right now is number one, you need someone to guide you while you are on this journey. And number two, you can always change from wherever you are to being what you want to become. And what he said, what he learned in school was different from actually what he's doing now. And this is going for students that are in this meeting whereby you are actually learning a particular course and you really want to transition. Trust me when I say you can always transition into whatever you want to do. Thank you so much, Manasseh. So we are going to be moving into the today's topic, which is thinking beyond test and cases. So right now, I'm going to be asking, what does thinking beyond test cases actually mean in day-to-day QA work? Manasseh, you're muted. You're still muted.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. So I would say thinking beyond test case, right? I think as QAs, our line of action primarily is, write your test cases, execute, and then you're checking, okay, is this does it meet the expected result? Yes, pass, we move on, right? But I think if you're going to think beyond just test cases, right, you have to look at it from the angle of coming from the angle of maybe like a detective or quality investigator, right? So what you're checking for is not just if the functionalities work, right? I mean, a test case can tell you what to check, right? But if you are thinking beyond test cases, you also check further for what could go wrong that nobody thought to write down. Right? Those are the edge cases, the unhappy path, and how a real user will interact with the feature under under unusual condition or stress, right? So most times it could be due to network. You can simulate certain things that typically would not have been taken down on your test case, right? So for example, let's say you're testing a form submission, right? The test case is enter and valid data, click submit, verify success message. Thinking beyond it simply says, okay, what if I double click, right? What if I navigate midway before submission? What if network drops off? What happens? You know, those are things that on the test environment you can simulate, but are not literally things you can put in. So you're also checking those little things that could, I mean, to you it might be an oversight, but sometimes they become a bigger noise when users start to bring up issues like that.
Thank you very much, Manasseh. So if you have not been hearing, what he's saying is that beyond test execution is more than test cases. There are edge cases and the things that um, you are looking at to make sure that the users make sure that users are not having problems with. Thank you very much, Manasseh. So I would like to go to the second question, which is, at what point should a tester move from just following test cases to exploring the products more deeply?
Oh, well, I would say you should start from the day one, right? If you're assigned a task, because it becomes more urgent once you understand the product well enough to have, I mean, intuitions about it. So if you start following test cases and you explore more deeply, right, you need to know what you're testing. And like I said previously, you need to come from the angle of, oh, I'm also a user, not just a tester, right? I'm testing because the actual users would have to come to my products, will have to come to use this application. So you have to explore deeply, right? And the signal to explore is when your text execution feels mechanical, right? When you are just going through the same thing. So for instance, if you finish regression testing, right, on a payment module in maybe like 2 hours when it's supposed to maybe take you like a day or a day and a half, right? Instead of probably reporting, there are sometimes you can just navigate the application, right? And you spend time on some of the edge cases. You realize more often than not that, I mean, there are things that might not have been documented, but because you've been able to check, what that does is you might not need to get that as a blocker for you to be able to close out on your test, but it gives the product, it gives the business an idea of things to also take to the backlog that can be addressed in maybe later deployment as well. So you're also checking for all those touch points basically.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I really want to ask because while you were explaining this point to us, you said understanding the product. So I would really have to ask, I really want to know if um understanding the products means before you start testing test cases or at some point after using the test cases.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how you will understand the product after using test cases, right? Unless you're coming from an angle of a beta user, maybe you want to just give out the product and give users to test. But as a QA, if you want to pick up a material or you want to pick up a project to test, first things first, you have to understand what is supposed to be done, right? In understanding what needs to be tested, you also might have questions. You definitely have questions because if you pull me into there and say, oh, I have a project, go ahead and test this feature on an application. I'll first of all ask you, what am I supposed to look out for? In asking what I'm supposed to look out for, I'll also go further to ask you, what is the purpose of this, right? Let's say if it's a product I know about, I can maybe ask other deeper questions, edge cases. That's why most times in most cases you have a walkthrough, right? For places where you're still going through the waterfall, you definitely used to have walkthroughs to know what you're supposed to test, what you're looking out for. And in agile, the importance of sprint planning, grooming section, technical reviews, those are where you are able to understand deeply, and also from a QA's angle, you're also bringing out your own perspective. Because trust me, devs and PMs, right, they will always come with, this is what we want to go out with. But if you look at it from a QA's perspective, we more often than not used to ask, what could be going on wrong? What if I do things this other way? What happens? So that gives you a leverage as to be able to understand the products as well as going forward. That's why in most cases you will see that if there's any feedback or questions that are required on a particular product, the first person they go to is the QA, because it's believed that you must have combed through the application left, right, and center. So if there's any issue or there's any module off the top of your head, you could just say, okay, this is where I think it is, or this is what you should be able to see. So that speaks to you being able to understand the products.
Okay, thank you so much. But I really want to ask again, especially for the novice in the house. Apart from the fact that most of the novice in the house, they might be thinking, how do I ask question? What exactly am I supposed to ask? Like, I've been in the situation that when I started my profession of quality assurance engineer, I was asking myself that, what exactly should I be asking? First thing first, after I've been given the PRD and others, what am I supposed to ask from the PM and the developer? What exactly would you advise the newbies to first ask before venturing into the PRD and others?
Well, I would say first thing you should do is you first of all have to review the PRD yourself, right? So if they give you a document that you're going to test, you need to take time, go through it. I mean, if you're a QA, you definitely would have maybe to some extent have previous experience. And if you don't, if you're a newbie, I mean, there are some aspects of QA you must have learned, because you don't just quit and move. So you definitely know the processes of how the testing life cycle works. So if you're starting from requirement gathering to test planning and review, so you know that there's a step to these things, right? So you first of all do your own review, right? Then you go further to check for those loopholes in between the lines. They are always there. Yeah, or rather, I'll say they are mostly there, right? Except it's just a simple feature. But if they tell you this is what you need to test from start to finish, and all your user stories or the PRDs are all itemized, right? You first of all have questions like, what if I click this button? What am I supposed to do? Because many a times, what the PRD we say is what we want to achieve. You realize that in some cases, error handlings are not there. They don't tell you what kind of error to expect. So, for instance, you want to test and you don't ask questions like, what error should come when there's a failure? What triggers a failure, right? What target audience are we having this application to run by, in case of maybe you want to run performance to see if the system crashes eventually. So there are certain questions that you always have to ask. You always want to confirm or validate that this is it. And like I said previously, if you start to ask and start to think beyond the document or the PR of the user story that you have, right? And in some cases, you might see the design itself. You can ask, why is this button here and not on this particular page, right? So that gives you questions to ask. There are always questions to ask. And the more you ask the questions, the better it is for everybody, because it gives the PM an idea to what they are trying to achieve. They look at it from an angle of a user, not, and then the dev also sees it from an angle of, okay, it's just not to implement this and push, right? You also need to take cognizance of all these edge cases as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. So what I am bringing out in this is always ask questions as QA and make sure that you go beyond testing. You go beyond testing by asking more questions, and the more you ask questions, the more it opens the eyes of the PM to know what exactly they are aiming for. Thank you very much. How can someone new to QA start developing a more critical and exploratory mindset?
Well, if you are new to QA, I think what I'll tell you to do is start by becoming deeply curious, right, about how things not only work, but how they break as well, right? So you don't just look at how it works, you also try to look at how it breaks. Read bug reports from maybe your teammates. I mean, histories that, I mean, if you join a place, except you are the starter or the only QA, right? You probably will have like a um, process implementation, right? So if you go through some of these things, go through some of the work that was done before, it helps you to understand how they work, right? And then you also know what to ask or what to look out for. So study the products from a user's perspective. So you can take up any application on your phone. Trust me, the WhatsApp we use, I mean, there are applications I've seen bugs and I'm like, well, we're already using it. So if you even look at how curious you are on just applications, right? Maybe it's just me, but more often than not, you are also curious as to some of the implementations that you see, right? So you can always come from the aspect of I'm a user. Why is this thing doing like, why is this thing done like this? Why is this implementation in this flow? So it gives you that ability to what? To be to be critical and also to have an exploratory mindset.
Okay. Wow. Guys, if you're not listening, you're missing. I mean, the first thing they said that came to my mind, I was like, oh yes, that's actually right. As a QA, you have to be very curious on what you're testing, curious on asking questions and all. And then he went on to speak about thinking like a user and using the application like a user so you can know what exactly a user is thinking about. Thank you very much, Manasseh. Let me move to the next question because this question is actually it actually came from my heart because I am even curious on that, on learning from you, especially. Can you share an example where thinking beyond test beyond test cases helped you catch a critical ball?
Okay, so if you're going um, beyond test cases, right? I think one thing you would know is, like I said, the users will always come or the products will come with, let's push this feature out, let's deploy this, right? It doesn't matter how, but when we get there, we cross and start fixing issues. But one of the things you need to think is if you're thinking beyond just the test cases, just beyond the material, beyond the requirement, one of the things you will realize is you will eventually be able to see some loopholes in the requirement. So, for instance, if I was to give an example, there was an application I had worked on a while back ago, right? So, what it's supposed to do, there's a table where you have you're introducing a new field to a table, it's a web application, right? And it's supposed to be a terminal field. On that particular table, you are changing the table header to sleep header, and then you're moving it from a terminal ID to sleep header, but the values still remain the same. What the business requires is, okay, let's take out the sleep header name and replace with terminal ID, right? But if you start thinking beyond this, beyond test cases, you realize that there's an edge case there that wasn't captured, which is what happens to existing data on the table, right? If you go through, let's just do what it's supposed to. You check back what happens to the data, how are they impacted, right? If there's a filter on that page, if there's a search functionality on that page, you also try to confirm if I search, is this also captured in the parameters that when I search, I should get value for the sleep header name as against the terminal ID, right? You're also checking if I apply filter, is it also captured? So you see that beyond just having that particular field with the record or values returned on that table, there are other things that will come in place that you need to also ensure. And if you don't come from a critical mindset, you just be like, okay, let's click. It's valid. It is on the table. I can see the sleep header name. Users can see the sleep header name, but you didn't go further to check what happens if a user decides, oh, I can see, but I'm looking for a particular one. When I want to search for what I'm seeing on the table, will it return data, right? And from that angle, I was able to confirm that if you apply a filter with this with the updated column, the data on the updated column, it doesn't return, right? If you apply with the if you search by that same value of the skip header, it still does not return, right? And that was an issue that was raised within testing, that if you go through the document, you won't be able to even find, okay, this and this was captured, right? So that's, I mean, one of many examples that you can always try to go beyond. That's why I said you always think of what can always break as well as what is working. So you don't just rely on this is what is working, this is what is supposed to, right? I don't know if that clarifies or answers the question.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. So you don't just rely on this is what is going to happen. You also look forward to it and check it out. Thank you so much, Mana.
Welcome.
See, if you are still listening, please drop emojis. Let me see your emojis, guys. Hi, guys. Eka, Iwo, Afsat, Charles, Ewoman, Zino. Thank you, Sunday. Thank you, Richard. Who else? Thank you, Wisdom. Um, Thank you, Ewomazino. Let me just call you Zino. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so let's move on. So this particular question, God, this particular question, it's been living in my heart for a very long time, and I can say that
Oh,
there are some times that people are always thinking about, oh, business impact. How do I test so that this bug will not affect this business? So it is more of how can tester better understand the business impact of what they are testing. That is the high, the low, the like. How can we do that? How can we better understand that?
well, if you want to understand the business impacts, right, I think one of the things you need to understand is also you need to identify the risks, right? So what I mean is risk identification basically starts with asking certain questions, right? So first of all, you would ask for these implementations that were taken through or these applications that were built in, what is the most damaging thing that could go wrong, right? Where has this code base, I mean, broken before? You go back to things that have happened, and then what is the user most likely to do unexpectedly? And trust me, if you are able to identify this, right, you will understand the process that will require for you to be able to better understand the product and also come from a business angle. Before testing a checkout, for instance, right, you review the top 10 customer support tickets. So for instance, if you want to check out, you can piggyback, work with the business to understand what complaints have we had over time um, on this particular feature that we want to roll out, right? You also check some production incidents that might have occurred over time, and then you also verify, importantly, um, payment integrations with other applications. So this helps you to identify, parameters that might help you to be able to work with your team to roll out a more reliable application or feature, right? So that you are able to save yourself, because like I mentioned, one of the things we don't like as QA is who tested it or there's an issue somewhere. Most times you realize that it's not like you didn't do your job, right? But if you notice some kind bugs that you won't be able to even assume if it was you that tested it, you won't believe yourself most times. So some of these things you need to check, right? But we live in a world today where you hardly have time to even do your actual work as a QA, right? There's always, as you are done with this project, next one is coming. There's no time to even close out or even do high level post deployment checks, because business is always willing to push, always willing to roll out. So that way you are able to understand. But like I said, if you put some of these questions in mind, right, even when you bring it to the business and say, okay, these are some risks that I see or I foresee in these things, they would also put it in consideration. Because I mean, with the way every company is getting attacked now, you can imagine you are the QA in one of these things and they say, how did you test? And all these security issues were even, I mean, data breaches came into our system, right? If they are coming to pack people, unfortunately, or I don't know if it's fortunately, you might be one of them. So some of these things, like I said, you are really going to be able to, I mean, identify the risks and also try to implement them on your test case as well. So that you can, even if the business decides today and say, oh, I don't mind, we'll take the risks. It is already documented that you actually captured these risks, right? And you also documented them. So if they agree that let's go to production with it, whatever happens, who tested it will not be a problem, because the person that tested it actually confirmed it. So it was the business that decided to go with it that will now take the blame. Do you get? So it's always to ensure that you are not the one that is always dropping the ball when it's passed to you.
Mm, okay. If you did not hear that, always focus on the impact. Always know the impact. Always know what exactly is going on in an application. Thank you so much, Manasseh. Um, so I really want to ask, how do you approach testing when requirements are unclear or constantly changing? According to some of our approach, let's say the fact that most of the approach of SDLC, you see them changing requirements, putting more buttons in an application. So how do you, as a QA, how do you approach testing when requirements? In fact, in general, when PRD, most of the businesses that we have today that they have application, they don't even have requirements to start with. Once you are a QA and you enter the company, you get to see that what they are offering you is more of, oh, okay, just check, just go and test this application. Some of them does not have PRT. How do we approach this? How do we approach this as a QA?
Well, I think this one might be clearer if you're a QA, right? I mean, it's basic. One of the things you do is you just need to identify that the requirement is unclear. Right? That's the first thing you do. Just look, okay, requirement is unclear or requirement is changing, right? Then you now go further to document your assumptions or your findings, what the bits that you notice, and also the edge cases that you're also pulling from it. And if there's a use case that, I mean, is identified by you that is not captured, you always pick up, right? You don't just keep it and say, okay, I'll focus on what is on the document, right? Use exploratory testing as well. I mean, to focus on the user's intent, because at the end of the day, whatever we build as a development team, we are not the ones that use it. So you can always have to come from whoever the target user is, what they want to get out of your application. Because one of the things you realize with the way everybody's building solutions, everybody's having applications, right? So you know that you are not just working with a team that is building just one specific thing with users. There are competitors building similar to your product. So that one thing that needs to make your own have that more quality to stand out from the rest, right? You always have to pay attention to it, because as a QA, attention to detail is also very important. So if a PM hands over a ticket saying user should be able to filter results with no criteria, I mean, the tester will obviously say, okay, I can filter with dates, right? And then we are good to go. But when you see other parameters in the design or in the table, if I filter with location, what happens, right? If I filter with um without date range, if I filter within a specific time, applying custom date, there are other edge cases you can do by location, by amount, by whatever have you, right? So it now requires stating these things clear. Like I said, if you document all these things and you present, they will now decide, okay, let's pick up these guys and attend to it. But more often than not, most times business will be like, we don't have time, right? So in an agile environment, they'll tell you, okay, yes, we'll go with this first, then we'll roll out the rest. They can go to the backlog and then we deploy in iterations. So it's easier to say, let's take out this particular implementation at the first instance and then come back later and then you proceed.
Thank you very much, Manasi. That was really explanatory and understandable. Thank you so much. Apart from the fact that we have newbies here, we also have juniors and we have mid levels, we have intermediate, that should be mid level. We have seniors and all here. So I would like to know the advice that you would give them on what might be set to shift to, so that they can move from junior to mid level, or mid level to senior, or newbie to junior. What mindset do you advise them to have?
I think it's just to have a reactive, you just need to have that shift from reactive to proactiveness, right? Because if you move from feature level, you need to now understand. So let's use a QA, for instance. Now, you start as a junior. Nobody expects you as a junior QA to start writing UI automation, web automation, or API automation, right? You can maybe just start that you basic click, oh, it works. Yes, we move on. Or you do the negative test and everything. But having that proactive approach now tells you, how do I grow here? What and what you need to grow. And like I said, it's always important to have somebody that you're always following, right? You might not even be following the person like back to back, right? For instance, we have LinkedIn. You can only see some people's, you can follow people from what they post, what they even say online. So there are ways you are also being proactive to know, oh, this is what is in vogue now, right? For instance, you cannot be in 2026 and say, okay, you don't know how to leverage AI to make your testing process faster, right? You always have to be proactive to move with the space, because if you move from just being a manual tester, you also have to move. You don't have to go fully automation, right? You can go to, you start learning how to test APIs, you start learning how to write automation. And I think one of the good things about moving up in testing these days is the automation tools that we use, right? They've become so easy to learn, easy to pick up. Unlike you starting back then, and then you are trying to learn Selenium WebDriver, Selenium ID. Those really required, like, you need to go in depth, right? But now you have AI, you have things to help you to understand how to move, right? So if you're not taking advantage of this, I can tell you that you might just be at one position and somebody will come from nowhere, because experience, you can build experience within a very short time, depending on how or what you know and how much you know about a system. So you don't just move from testing features now, you go into testing systems. And in testing systems, you will also be able to understand how microservices work. You are testing databases. You are also looking into applications, security testing and the likes. So it's not, I mean, software testing is, it's far from being just manual. Manual gets you into the door, right? But if you want to move up to the next door, you now need to upskill. You now need to know certain things. And if I'm to be honest, it's not about getting certificates are good, right? But all those extra certificates might not do you a lot more as you having that experience, because it speaks more on just the theoretical aspects, right? They help you get into the door, but then it now takes you and the level of expertise and what you've also tested that now takes you into the next level.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. One thing I actually heard loud and clear. I heard everything loud and clear, but what really stood out for me was the fact when you were talking about you have to follow someone. You have to follow someone, even if it is on LinkedIn. Check out people's posts, check out what they're talking about and all, just to make sure that you follow them and you know what exactly to do. Thank you so much for that. So I would like to ask Um, according to what you were saying, you spoke about AI during this conversation, this last conversation that we had. So I would like to ask, what tools or techniques help you test beyond the obvious scenarios like edge cases? Because I know of some people that actually use AI for test cases. And do you think AI should actually we should actually use AI for edge cases too? Because what tools do you use, or what technique do you bring into your job to make you think beyond test cases?
Well, I would say you use the tools that you have access to, right? One thing AI does is you know it. You just need a better way to, express yourself. So it's not about the tools, right? How do you prompt AI to give you the results? So you might be able to have access to Gemini, ChatGPT, even Claude, right? It is what you give AI that determines what you get. So one of the things you can use, I won't advise you to put in, exactly confidential information on AI, right? What you can expressly put on AI is to help you do faster is you are able to, for your requirement that you can put in a phrase or a prompt. This is what I want to build, right? What are edge cases that typically would be able to come from this, right? The response you get from that helps you to, improve on your test case documentations, right? It helps you to go further. One of the things I learned of recent on automation is um, for AI, right? It's easier if you know these things, then it helps you to go beyond some of the errors that you get. Maybe your pipeline fails or what have you. You can easily prompt, and then an AI will give you a response as to the possible cause. So it also helps you in troubleshooting error messages. These are things that back then, if you're not too technical in um, writing code, right? You see an error from your pipeline or your test, the first person you're calling is your dev. How far? I can see this is failing, right? And then the response they might give you, oh, it's just maybe you miss one line of code or one line of script, or you make a mistake in your script, right? They can tell you, but if you do that and you're using AI, you can also go for that to go ahead and I mean, troubleshoot yourself, right? So unless you can even, it even helps you to report bugs because from the errors you get, you are able to know how to give a detailed bug report so that the dev doesn't necessarily have to maybe ring you up and say, oh, this thing you reported, I don't understand, right? But if you come from an angle that, oh, I've done my research, I know what this error could have been, right? So I return it back to you and say, okay, this is what you should be able to fix. So it helps the dev to even resolve issues quicker because the essence of AI is to help us do those things we do manually faster. If you're using UI automation, I know you can now use AI to assist in writing your page object modules quicker than before, right? There are ways, there are prompts that you can always use to get them. So sometimes if I want to, if I have a page I want to automate a in like a week or so, right? What AI can do for me is if I use Cypress with the help or Playwright with the help of the recorder, record your steps, right? You're able to now categorize them into page objects. Then AI can even help you in your code. You can also write, AI can also help you. The agent also can help you to rescript your page object models. Like I said, it always depends on how you prompt AI and how you're able to give in. But I would not advise anybody to pick up confidential data and drop it on AI and just okay, just write the entire test script for me and let me just copy and paste. Believe me, you can see some copy and paste that you know where you see that code that says, oh, this is how you're supposed to write it. The person copies everything together and you just end up making a fool of yourself eventually.
Mm. It amazes me when people try as much as possible to put details of other companies into AI, knowing fully well AI might not be
Yeah.
100% safe. Like now that you're saying it, you just confirmed what I have been saying for a while now, that AI it might just be there to help us and it's not there to steal our job. But God, you can't do your job. You can't make AI to do all your job for you. You can't drop confidential things on AI and think that you are safe. Trust me. Who created AI? Human being. Who would have access to AI? Human being. Who tests AI? Human being. So let us do as much as possible. I always tell people that let us do as much as possible to be confidential, because they trust you with their company and their information. So you can't breach that trust by posting their information on AI and think you are safe. But thank you very much, Manasseh. Thank you. Um, so yeah, the last question I would be asking, in case any other person have question, you can raise up your hand or you can um post it on the comments in the meeting. So I really want to ask, for someone, as I said before, we don't have only juniors and newbies here. We also have seniors here. For someone aiming to grow into a senior or leadership role, what habits should they start building now?
For someone aiming to go big,
To grow into a senior or leadership role, what habits should they start building now?
well, I think one of the things you should start or you put in place, right, is you need to start treating every bug as a learning event, right? You know, there are bugs that will lead to production that it will beat you down. You will hear comments from people like, what kind of QA are you? What have you tested? Like people will question your experience, right? So all you need to do is you need to take those things as learning curves, right? I remember when I started, there are still some bugs till today that I remember how those bugs were in production, right? And I remember that scenario where it was, and then I don't know how to put it, but the way shame will wear you agbata, that kind of scenario where you be like, am I the QA that tested this thing, right? But I didn't take it as well. Right? I just took it as okay, it's something I've learned. So next time you're able to now document how you tested that before, and then you have similar scenarios as to how to use that particular one to, go. And as you move on, right, like, part of the principles of testing is there's no system that is bug free, right? So there are always going to be bugs, but you can't, 100% testing, it's very rare for you to have that in any particular system. So you also need to understand that these things happen, you grow, right? So in just growing, you're also not letting it to put you down, right? You're documenting your testing approach. You're right. Quality retrospective, right? Have retrospective to yourself, not just when the team has retrospective to check what went wrong, right? And then along the line, you're also able to mentor junior QAs as well. So if you have a lot of people, or you don't have, right, you have people that as you're learning, you're also, I mean, mentoring, right? So it helps you as yourself, because trust me, there are a lot of things you can learn from people that you think you are older than in the industry, right? You realize that some cases that you must have tested, and that's another thing for you that you are experienced. If you just go for, let's say you become a senior QA and then you are more of system functionality, there are some functional bugs that the clicking and clicking you can overlook, but it will shock you that somebody that is just coming up like, oh, this is. So you also need to have that, I mean, approach to mentor younger ones. And also I keep emphasizing on having somebody that you're, following, right? So if somebody, you'd be like, oh, maybe in like 2 years I want to be working in this particular organization, or I want to be able to understand what this person knows, right? So there are habits you follow. Most times you have people you reach out to online. I've reached out to a couple of people online just to understand how some applications work, right? Let me give you an example. There was a time um I was having challenge while trying to automate with Cypress, right? And the test was failing at a point where I'm trying to get iframe as a locator, right? What I did was I tried within my team. Unfortunately, then I was more or less the only QA. So how else would I have moved up? I had to reach out to one or two people, and I was even somebody connected with somebody that I had to just get on a call with. I mean, just to review that flow. And you know, those are things that you learn. And believe me, certain things you learn from sessions with people that maybe are above, right? They stick with you because you are able to get something from that session, right? So a thing you need to know as a mid-level or even a senior, you're always going to have where you are moving up to. So if you write weekly quality retrospective on what worked and what didn't, right, you always know that after a period of time, you will know what to do, right? Do I need more training to be able to stop these things from happening? Do I need to go and learn a particular tool to be able to understand how this goes, right? So for you to aim for leadership, you also have to build yourself. You don't just go into leadership by clicking and expecting that your bug reports are always good. No, you also have to build that way to also learn to lead, right? Habits that will help others to grow as well. Because truth is, as you are growing, people under you will grow, and those that are following will also grow. So that's how you're able to make spaces for people to grow and for you yourself to develop those habits.
Yeah, thank you so much, because I can relate when it comes to impact in a way that somebody try as much as possible to make sure that I grow before I got my internship. Even after getting my internship, then I was able to still learn from this particular person till I get to where I am now. In fact, it's that person that is always telling me when anybody comes to him now, he'll be like, go and meet this person. I don't I don't need another person again. Like, it would always bring someone else to me and tell me to make sure that I make this particular person grow. And trust me when I say leadership is is there, to be honest. Because at some point, I was talking to someone recently and I was like, yeah, is this me? Because the way I'm giving the person back to back, tell me, are you serious about this? Tell me, And when I was teaching the person, another person, I was like, is this me? But at the same time, I totally can relate. And thank you so much, Manasseh. I mean, it's 12 already. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming here. Thank
Thank you
you
for
for coming to teach us. Thank you. We really appreciate you. We really like the fact that we learn from you. Guys, drop emojis. Drop emojis just to let him know that you've been listening. And you can always drop thank you message for him on the message section. Thank you so much, Manasseh. So we are gonna call it a day right now because no one has raised up their hand to ask questions or anything. We are going to be calling it a day. And thank you so much, you guys, for joining. In as much as today is Thursdays and we are still having these people on call, I mean, it means a lot for Tester Squatters. And trust me when I say you being here means a lot to yourself. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to your growth. And trust me when I say this would impact your growth. Trust me when I say you are not missing anything. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming to this monthly mentorship. Let's have a very good day. But today is not Friday. Oh, actually,
Right.
tomorrow
It's a
is
holiday.
public
So
holiday. Tomorrow is public holiday. Yeah. tomorrow they say, they always say something that what do they say? The weekend we go sweet. Now Wednesday we go no. So yeah, this weekend is going to be sweet. So you guys, let's have fun. Tomorrow is weekend already for most of us, but most of us we you know it is not weekend yet. We still have to work. But still, thank you so much for joining. Let's have a very good day. And you can unmute your mic and say thank you, Manasseh. Thank you, Tessa Scotters. And bye to everyone. Have a very nice day. Bye, guys.
For having me. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Manasseh. Bye.